Welcome to Talking Heads on USA Global TV, starring the one and only wonderful Dr. Jacqueline. It's a prestigious place where world-class influencers and experts meet, and where you'll find the most trusted advisors and coaches for all things in life and business. Visit usaglobaltv.com to sign up for our newsletter, get the value you need, and be first in line to learn about events and giveaways and other valuable content. Connect with us. Email Dr. Jacqueline at usaglobaltv.com to talk about how you can become part of USA Global TV. That's USA Global TV, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV, and hello to our friends listening on Business Talk Radio. I'm Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck, and our show today is Talking Heads. This is a program that features world-class experts who come to our platform and share their expertise with us in 30-minute blocks. I am so privileged and excited to have a dear friend, someone I've worked very closely with, who is a stellar human being. In addition, he is an international public speaker. He's a published author. He's a book coach and an independent publisher. He has 5 academic degrees and 7 professional certifications. He's the author of 5 books on various aspects of health and wellness, and he certainly is a longevity expert. Let us welcome to the program Mr. Red O'Laughlin. Hi, Red. Welcome.
Howdy, Dr. Jacqueline. Just another wonderful day in paradise, eh?
It sure is. And to use an expression that you say all the time, things are better than excellent, right?
No, I say when you say, how are you? I say, excellent, as always. And then sometimes days are even better than that. And today is one of those days because I have a chance to share some, I think, really valuable information with people. How do we age? What can we do about it?
You certainly do. And that is a topic that people are very excited to hear about, as am I. So I'm going to turn the stage over to you. And this is your presentation, Mr. Red O'Laughlin, Talking Heads expert.
Thank you, Dr. Jacqueline. I really and truly appreciate that. I'm honored to be on your show. My background, I'm retired. I get 6 Saturdays and a Sunday every single week. Dr. Jacqueline mentioned that I had 5 academic degrees. Also had 31 plus years in the military. I was an aviator, a Navy captain. Traveled to about 61 countries, over 60 countries. Last year we were married, my wife and I, 53 years. We have 2 kids and 3 grandkids. It turned out I didn't realize it at the time, but my first love was chemistry. However, I never got a chance to practice it because I got an invitation to Vietnam. As part of my background after I retired, I was involved with self-esteem, motivation, self-improvement. I was going around the country with my mentor, speaking and selling my books and doing things like that. Then my wife came down with breast cancer. And in the process of researching what can I do to help her, I found that my original love, chemistry, is allowing me to come back into things. So I research what goes on in the human body at the cellular level, chemically speaking. I look for cause and effect relationships. Treat a cause, fix a problem. Treat a symptom, and you'll always be treating it. So I became more of a researcher of health and wellness during my wife's cancer thing about 6 years ago. I write almost every day on health and wellness. You can see my public, I think I have 949 as of this morning, original content articles on LinkedIn. I got about 1,400 articles on my website, almost everything dealing with health and wellness, some aspect of it. I'm an author of several books, but the one I'm going to use today is my book called Longevity Secrets for Healthy Aging. How to have the body of a healthy 50, how to live to 100 years of age with the body of a healthy 50-year-old and a mind of a 25-year-old. And basically, there's a lot of things we can do. Even if we start late in life, we can still change things. But those are the things that we want to talk about today. What can you do to change your life to make it better? In addition to writing and authoring, I speak on health and wellness generally at least 2 or 3 times a month. I speak at a local Chamber of Commerce meeting. There's other things there, but almost all my topics are on some aspect of longevity, age-related disease. And in fact, in the future here on this particular Talking Heads program, we're going to get a lot more into depth on disease itself and what can we do about it. There's a lot of them, a lot of things. So today, let's talk about longevity. If somebody says, what causes you to age? Some people may just jump out and say, well, obesity, smoking, whatever. I mean, those are factors. They're not necessarily the biological cause. And that's what we're aiming for. What can we do at that cellular level to make things change? Well, There are several things out there, but the ones I think that are most important, number one is human growth hormone, and number two, your telomere length. I'll get into telomere lengths in just a moment or two. Let's talk about human growth hormone. Sometimes you see it as HGH, but when we're an infant, we have tons of this stuff. Our body's just making it like crazy. Generally speaking, as an infant, you have about 2,000 milligrams a day. As you get a little bit older, your teens, now you've cut back over half. You're down around 700, 800 milligrams a day. Now you get in your 50s and a little bit older. Now you're down 150 or less, 125. Now you start getting into your retirement years, and you're flirting that 100 or below milligrams per day. That is not necessarily a healthy thing, because when human growth hormone's in charge, it's in charge. It allows everything to grow at the proper rate. That's why as a baby, you see, the toddler, you see the young child, everything is growing. Everything, they rarely come down with anything other than, some sickness they pick up when they're visiting other kids. But in reality, they're healthy. Teenage years were healthy. Our early 20s were healthy. Everything is going right. Human growth hormone is responsible for that. But what kind of problems do we see later on in life? Well, you got bone density problems, you got immune system suppression, you got cardiovascular, you get memory loss. A lot of things are going on later in life that can be controlled if we leave human growth hormone in charge. Well, human growth hormone is made in the pituitary, and it is affected by several things. Our gender affects how much we make, exercise, stress, our hormone balance. A lot of things affect the actual production of it. And as we look at these levels that shorten our life, the things that are probably the biggest key items, and these are the things we have control over, is nutrient deficiency, hormone imbalance, excess fat, inflammation, high blood glucose levels, stress, toxins, and poor quality sleep. Now, poor quality sleep is kind of a double whammy, because in the first hour of our deep sleep is when we actually create 70-80% of the human growth hormone that we're making. So if we're not getting good quality sleep, we're not making the human growth hormone. So sleep is an issue. If that's one that we generally have the ability to control, but I'm not talking about with pills. I'm talking about getting a good, honest, good night's sleep. So we looked at nutrient balance, blood sugar levels, the quality of sleep, stress management. All of us have stress every single day. It's there no matter what. However, most of us reach out and grab a hold of it and we won't let it go. That's a problem. When it's not the stress that happens to us, it's what we do with it once it comes to us. If you can get rid of it immediately, that's fine. I'd love to use an example. You're at a traffic light, 3 or 4 cars in front of you. You know it's a short green light. The light turns green and nobody's moving, and you're in a hurry. All of a sudden, people start to move, and you're going to be stuck through another cycle. What's the easiest way to get rid of stress? Smile. You'll be amazed at just that little stress relief. The muscles going in the opposite direction affect the brain. You can't have a negative and a positive thought in your brain at the same time. So by smiling or even laughing, those are things that actually cause a reverse into the brain. And as such, you're quelling, you're pushing that negative, instead of harping on it and being pissed off. And now all of a sudden you're driving. Now you get in a bit of a hurry. Get rid of the stress. If you're around somebody who's stressful, get away from them. And if you're in line and somebody is just really slowing things down at the grocery store, smile. Those are things that are going to help you get rid of stress very easily. But other factors that are in there, let's see. Inflammation, that was the other one I was trying to think of. A lot of the foods we eat create inflammation in the body at the cellular level, and that's where a lot of disease gets started. But how can we reverse those things? How can we actually make ourselves better? I want to increase my HGH. Well, first thing we need to do is nutrient balance. Our body needs about 30, 31, 32 nutrients a day. And if we're not getting them, then we have nutrient deficiency. Now we have a lot of problems. Not necessarily today, but 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. So nutrient balance is one. And as you're balancing your nutrients, you need to keep your blood sugar levels at the right level. Get too high, we get problems possibly with inflammation in the brain down the road, but other issues with diabetes and things that we don't even want to talk about. Stress management. Yeah, you can smile only when you're in stressful situations. But why not smile anyway? You know, if you're walking outside, you're going to the refrigerator, you're coming back from the bathroom, smile. Just those little things help resolve. But if you have something, I use EFT, emotional freedom techniques. I love them. I do them for at least 8 minutes because I find out that's the minimum amount for me. Google EFT, emotional freedom techniques, on YouTube. And just, you know, EFT and stress, EFT and whatever your problem is, and you'll find a really good way to get rid of it. I mentioned laughter, exercise. Now, for human growth hormone and for telomeres, exercise works, but the kinds that you need are different for human growth hormone increasing or for telomere control. Generally speaking, any kind of aerobic or anaerobic activity is going to help you, but you can't just do it once a week or once a month. We're talking about minimum, absolute minimum every other day. But the best kind for human growth hormone is high intensity interval training. I do 100-yard dashes. I do each one faster than the previous one. That is my high intensity exercise. So I go out and I do 10, 12. If it's a really good day, I may do 15, but each one of my 100-yard dashes is faster than the previous one. At least that's what I try to do. But the frequency, the duration, the type of the exercise, you can go out on a long walk and have wonderful health improvements from it. When my wife and I were walking the Camino de Santiago 5, 6 years ago, we were walking about 18 miles a day, a good 8 or 10 hours daily walking. That's not something that we expect us to do, but there's no reason you can't go out and walk for a half hour. Most people can, depending on the weather and other things in their life. But the thing that I love, number one in my life, more so than anything else, to increase my own human growth hormones is fasting. Fasting has so many benefits. It's unbelievable what you can do with the fast. I personally fast 72 hours every month. Yes, 72. That's 3 days. The 72-hour fast allows your immune system to rebuild itself from scratch. You're getting rid of all the non-functioning cells in the body, the DNA that's not absolutely 100%, things that are not working right, the body gets rid of, because it's 72 hours. It's that time when it says, okay, here, I don't know how much longer I'm not going to be eating. I need to get rid of stuff that's not going to help me. So it just purges all that stuff out of the body. Now you're going to get a lot of accomplishment. You used to do a 12-hour fast. You know, from the time you go to bed at night to the time you wake up in the morning, human growth hormone can generally be 5, 10 times increased over that short period of time. So if your body's making 100 because you're 75 years of age, like I am, then, you know, maybe I'm making 500 that day. I still don't have the 2,000 I had when I was 3 months old, but it's a whole lot more than just having 100 or less on a daily basis. 18 hours a day, absolutely beneficial. 24-hour day occasionally, now you're talking about 20 times the amount of human growth hormone just for that one day of fast. Now, what do I mean by a fast? I mean water, unsweet iced tea is what I use, but nothing else. No food, no other drinks. Now, you might argue saying, well, what if I just squeeze a little bit of lime in my water? I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You're talking about 1 calorie, maybe at most. You sip it over a half hour. That's not going to evoke a metabolic response in the body. No problems. So if you need to sweeten up the water just a little bit, get some electrolytes, maybe put just a dash of salt in there. I would say Himalayan salt. But those things help the body as you're going through. So you're getting a little bit more electrolytes back. You're helping with a little bit of taste, but it's not something you just jump into a 24-hour fast or even a 72-hour. You got to work your way. I find that I need at least 2 days minimum to get myself mentally prepared. I tell my wife, you know, I'm going to be starting a 72-hour fast on Saturday. So I have accountability now. Somebody knows that I am now on the hook to do it. My subconscious mind knows I'm on the hook to do it. So I have to do whatever I'm going to do. But those are the things from a human growth hormone perspective that are really, truly important. And if you want to maximize it, exercise and fasting. Now, what other things do we have in that regard? Well, telomeres are a major factor in life. Now, what is a telomere? A telomere is if you think of your shoelace, the little plastic clip that's on the end of the shoelace that keeps everything from unraveling. Well, at the end of your chromosome, the end of your DNA, there is this little caplet, for lack of a better word. It's actually a little piece of material that's holding everything together. They call it a telomere. And when the cell replicates, it becomes from one cell to 2 cells, you lose just a little bit of it. And so when you're talking about telomeres, we're actually talking about shortening the length of loss or lengthening the time in between losses. It's kind of a perverse way of thinking. But I use the example of a roll of pennies. So if I get a roll of pennies in my hand and I say, this roll of pennies is going to replicate 50 times for that particular cell. I take a penny out and put it on the table. I still got 49 left, good long cell life. Everything's under control. However, if I take out 2 or 3 at one time rather than one, I'm going to shorten the life of that cell. When all the telomeres are gone, that cell's dead. So the things that influence our cell life are our lifestyle choices, the things we do every single day, psychological stress, a little bit different than physical stress, which is more associated with exercise, but psychological stress, your PTSD, your anxiety, your depression, maybe a trauma that you hold onto from an early life. Battered women have a major problem. It's not an early life trauma, it's a midlife trauma. Physical stress, again, exercise. And on telomeres, they don't need the high intensity. Just going out for a light jog or a nice walk will help immediately on that. Diet, again, nutrition is key. Smoking, don't. Toxins, and what do we call it about toxins? I'm talking about antibiotics, I'm talking about preservatives, artificial colors and flavors, animal growth hormones that are added, genetically modified foods. I'm talking about animals that are fed genetically modified foods, corn, soy, vegetable oils. Now, vegetable oils, I think, don't get the recognition for how bad they are because a lot of them are rancid. A lot of them are, if you have too much of anything, it's a bad deal. Yes, we need omega-6s in our body, the vegetable oils provided, but we don't need the level that is provided by the amount that's in a typical diet. But also we're looking at obesity and diabetes, and some medicines affect our telomere lengths. Now, researchers would love to take it and lengthen the telomeres. That's not really practical, but they can stop the shortening of them and they can reduce the degree of shortening. And this boils down to, the choices I mentioned earlier, our lifestyle, our relationships, how much stress we have between family members, coworkers, etc. Our diet. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. Our exercise, that may not be much in the wintertime, but it's something that we should be paying attention to. There's a lot of things we can do indoors, and it may not necessarily be high intensity exercise, but stretching, balance, those things are so key. Stress management, I say a minimum of 4 times a day, you ought to be doing something right after you wake up, after lunch, mid-afternoon, before you go to bed, and immediately anytime something affects you. I was at the grocery store a couple days ago, and I couldn't believe how long this woman was trying to find whatever she was trying to find. And I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And so I just said, this is a good chance to practice what I preach. So I just sat there and I just came out with the biggest smile I could, just like I was the happiest person in the world. And by the time she finally got through, forgot all about her. But what can you do realistically in your life to make things better for your older age? Well, exercise, I talk about minimum every other day. That's 4 times a week. Nutritional balance in your body. And I'm talking about all of your vitamins, your minerals, your enzymes, your amino acids, everything. Now, one of the things you can do is restrict the number of calories you have. Now, calorie restriction, most of the time they say for 1 pound of weight, you need 15 calories of food. Well, in reality, a restricted calorie is 10%, 10 calories per pound rather than 15. And when you put animals on a caloric restriction, they live 20, 30, 40% longer. Humans are probably in the same category. pH, how alkaline or how acidic your body is also another thing that should be paid attention to. Fruits and vegetables are highly alkaline. Everything else, your fats, your carbohydrates, your proteins, breathing, metabolism, everything else generates acid conditions in your body, something that you don't want. So fasting, even though you're not eating, you're benefiting from other perspectives. And the stress management. But if you can start doing 3 or 4 of these things in a regular basis, now I tell people on the diet, switch to a smaller plate, have one helping. Those are things that are easy to do today. If you can do just nothing else, but once, set your clock for once an hour and smile for 30 seconds. Lots of things can be done. You just have to be aware of what you can do and avoid those things that are not there. My first mentor says, you want to be like rich people, do what rich people do. You don't do the things that poor people do. You want to be healthy, find out what the healthy people do, and don't do the things that unhealthy people do. That's the best advice I can give you on a short 30-minute presentation. Next time we talk, we're going to talk more about how disease develops in the body and how we can control those things too.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Red. I always learn so much from you, and I've taken to heart and put into action many of the tips that you offer. Question I have for you, as a longevity expert, and I know you have an amazing attitude, and you've got an incredible background. How do you keep yourself motivated while you're fasting? I mean, does your body, I know you've been doing it for a long time, but is there a point where you start getting jittery or you start feeling fatigued or you have some kind of brain fuzziness? I mean, this is what I envision. This is a person who doesn't fast more than 10 hours. So, can you share a little bit with our audience about that?
So long as I have a couple days to think about it, I literally have no problems. Yes, I may get a hunger pang, and that is usually eliminated because I'm thirsty, I'm dehydrated. First thing you get up in the morning, you're dehydrated, you're not hungry. You have a habit of eating a breakfast or grabbing a cup of coffee. Those are habits. But as far as the body actually goes, I really have none. Now, if I go cold turkey, I say, let me just start this afternoon. Yeah, I probably have a problem by this time tomorrow after 24 hours. But I've done it so many times over the years that I don't have those problems anymore. And I think it's a matter that my body knows, when you have success in your life, the body will help you continue that success. When you have failure in your life, your subconscious mind is not going to be embarrassed by you failing again. So when I tell people, start incrementally, do 12, do 15, do 18, maybe do a 21-hour fast. We're just eating that little 3-hour window, then do maybe 24 to 30. But it's not something you have to do immediately and every single month. But it's one of those things you can work your way into very easily. And once you get that mindset and you can do it, I followed people who have done 10, 12-day fasts. Uh, it's not a difficult thing to do. If you do anything more than about 4 days, I think you ought to let your doctor know, and especially if you're on any kind of prescription meds. But I think, generally speaking, listen to your body. If you're there at 30 hours and something is just not right, stop. We're not here to hurt ourselves. We're here to take care of whatever our bodies feel. Same thing. I go out running. I may be able to run 5 miles today, but tomorrow I go out and run. I just don't feel good at 3 miles. We don't listen to our bodies sometimes. We kind of push our way through, especially when we're back in that 30s and 40s and 50s. We know our history says, we can do this. If you're older, listen more carefully to your body. So if you start getting a hunger pang and water isn't taking care of it, maybe you do need to have just a little bit of something because you haven't pushed your body far enough to become able to recognize a fast. And that's about all. But brain fog, no. I can't ever say I've had that, other than occasional just little stomach pang that lasts maybe 2 minutes. I don't have anything. And ironically, if I'm out driving on the road and I smell Chinese food or a burger or something, if I'm fasting, it just goes right through. It does not recognize. But if I'm out there in my non-fasting mode, well, it smells good. Maybe so it's kind of like a switch. It almost turns off a lot of things that you would think. I go to a banquet or something like that, or a luncheon that has food, and I'm fasting. I don't eat. I can look at it. I can fix food at the house. I can serve it, but I don't have the need to eat it, taste it, whatever. I mean, it's not there. But that's been
You've
developed
just mentally committed to it.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So you did touch on something, a follow-up question. If you are taking medication that requires you to take it with food, then what do you do?
You try to minimize the number of calories. In other words, maybe you could take it with a small handful of spinach. It doesn't have to be a piece of toast and milk. It can be a number of different things. Find out what you can take with your medicine, and make sure that if you're taking medicine, you're telling your doctor, I want to do 20/4. Talk to your doctor first. I mean, that's super critical. He has you on that medicine for a reason. I read, if I'm on a medicine, which is very rare, I read every little thing on the back of that that sheet that comes with it. I want to know what the contraindications are. I want to know what the side effect. I want to know everything about it. So that's what your doctor is. If you can't get to your doctor, talk to your pharmacist. I mean, that they probably have more experience in that than anyone else. Funny thing is, if I pick up a prescription med, I always ask. I said, can I drink and drive with this medicine? And of course, you're not supposed to drink and drive, but you'd be amazed. I think probably 19 out of 20 people working behind the counter, they'll look up, say, oh yeah, you can. I said, you're okay. So you're telling me I can drink and drive with this medicine? Yeah. I mean, there's a disconnect. They're looking for something in there about drinking and driving and the medicine side, and it's not in there. But I have every so often somebody, no, you're not supposed to drink and drive. But it's just one of those little things I like to just, add humor to my day.
I like it. I just interviewed you on our program, The Wise Ones, and I wasn't aware that you run 100-yard dash. That's fascinating as well. So I remember when I was in school, we had something called the shuttle block exercise. You remember that, where you have to run, pick up the block, and then run back? And I always hated that. I hated it. So how do you get inspired to do 100-yard dash and maybe even further? Because that does take a lot of mental strength, I think. Plus, you have to have really good lung capacity, and then you have to be fast.
I used to do a lot of 5Ks, 10K races. I would go out just for fun, run maybe 40, 50, 60, half, hour and a half. That to me was pleasure running at my pace. I had no problem at all. And I would try to do maybe 20, 30 days in a row. That was fine. I was living in New Orleans. There was a lot of races down there. My son was a runner. I'd be running in his races. And it was a mindset. It was a community. It was camaraderie. We get finished running, go down to the bar, have a couple of beers. It was just one of those things that we did. So it just kind of stayed with me. The Navy says you have certain things you have to do. So for my running, nowadays, my knees are still pretty excellent. I don't have any knee problems, but I don't have the time to go out and run for an hour and a half. I would love to, I just don't have the time. But I can go out in my front yard and run 100 yards and be done in 12, 15 minutes. I have certain places marked off, and I start that. I hit my timer, and I get down, hit my timer again. Okay. And I walk back. As soon as I get back to the starting line, I turn around and go again. And then I go again. And so that's a short duration. And because I know high intensity increases my human growth hormone along with fasting, I know the benefit I'm getting, not just the cardiovascular exercise, but the physiological benefits of reducing the aging processes. So from that perspective, there's a lot of things that I do that I know help me, that get me through that. And so that's one that I prefer to do. I prefer to do it when it's summertime rather than wintertime, but that's just my acclamation to what I enjoy.
Are you ever crawling back in between the sprints?
Listen to my body. If I'm crawling, if I'm at number 4 and I'm at about 75% the maximum my capacity, and all of a sudden I feel a little twinge in my back, my shoulder, my knee, my ankle, I'm going to take the next one a little bit easier just to make sure it wasn't something I hurt. And if it goes away, then I'm back on normal. If it doesn't go away, I take a day off, or 2 days off. So yes, again, so in moderation, whatever we have in moderation. I don't need to push that extra 4 or 5, speed things that I had planned to do. There's no reason I can't abort the mission. I mean, that's one of the things in the military. You have a mission. Sometimes there's requirements for you to abort that mission and stop, and then pick it back up later on. So I don't mind doing that. It's a perfectly acceptable idea to me that, okay, that's what I want to do, but I can't do it today for whatever reason. So,
I think that's a great place to stop for today, because we can abort the mission, whether it's with our health and some routine that we have, or if it's in business or personal life. We have the opportunity to assess what we're doing. How does it feel? How does it try it on? How does it feel? And if not, go down a different path.
absolutely. Couldn't say it better.
Well, it's been such a pleasure to have you here. So, folks who are watching, you can meet Talking Head Red O'Laughlin. Here he is. He's an international public speaker, published author, book coach, independent publisher, 5 academic degrees, 7 professional certifications, longevity expert. To contact him, you can go to his website, red.olaughlin.com. You can email him at red.olaughlin@gmail.com. And you can purchase his best-selling books all on Amazon, including The Joy of Ageless Health.
Now that's the book we're going to be talking about next week. When we're on next week, The Joy of Ageless Health is going to be front and center. Sorry to interrupt.
All right.
I didn't mean to do that.
No, that's okay. So we are here with Red, the same time, the same channel, wherever you're watching us here in USA Global TV. Please do go to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, and subscribe. And also go to our website, which is, by the way, usaglobaltv.com. Thank you so much, Red. Thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been a real treat having you here. And our Talking Head shows are on every day, pretty much. We have a different talking head who is here sharing his or her expertise. So you can get to know them over on our website, usaglobaltv.com. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Red. My co host is Justin Merigliani. He is a dear friend, a fabulous human being, and someone who is so accomplished. He is a corporate instructor, TV show host, author, CEO of Checkmates Charitable Association, and an entrepreneur. Let's bring him on to the show. Our show today is Entrepreneur and So Much More. Hi, welcome.
Dr. Jacqueline, thank you so much. I really appreciate that introduction. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I am just so excited, Justin. You and I spoke, I don't know how many years ago, 3 years ago, maybe, about doing something together. And then
Yes.
at a spin event for charity, actually just kind of said, hey, let's do this thing.
Yeah, and it's been a long time. And as you've known through the years, I've been in television before with shopping networks online and doing all of that. And I really, really wanted to get back into television. So this is the best place I could ever think of to do it. So thank you for setting up this platform. Really, really appreciate that.
Oh, you're such a great addition to our team here, Justin.
Thank you.
And I love this topic because, as you know, I left my corporate career and became an entrepreneur, and I've got a few businesses, and it's a tough thing. And success as an entrepreneur sometimes seems elusive or evasive, but there are
Oh, yeah.
actually concrete steps that we can take. So, before we begin with our show today, I'm going to spotlight you. And I'd love for you, as the co-host, this is the first time we're doing this show, just put it all out there, everything that you are doing and anything about your background that you want our audience to know.
Yeah, well, I started in school really with the basketball team at Cabrini College. I was the voice of our team for 3 years and sports director of the radio station, sports editor of the newspaper, and that was a lot of fun. I really liked communications. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get into sports communications, but I really didn't want to have to travel all over the country and cut my teeth at a lot of small stations and get involved with that. So I really didn't do that right away. And communications has always come back to me when I got out of school. The first few jobs that I had were in mutual funds and stocks and bonds, and you really wouldn't think that's something that a communications major would love, and that's right. You don't love those things at all, and it was miserable for me. So finally, I got a chance to get into corporate training, and I've been doing that for almost 23 years now. I just can't believe that I just said that number, 23 years. I started out teaching mostly, excuse me, the Microsoft Office products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and I still train those a lot. But I also do soft skills over the last few years, communication skills, public speaking, conflict management, things like that. And it's really fun for me to be able to do that. And it's amazing as sad and as upsetting and as much as I wish that this pandemic never happened, it has exploded my business. And uh, there's kind of a guilt that you feel with that because so many people are suffering and so many people are not doing as well. But what's happened is people need more computer skills, especially things like Microsoft Teams. I train that constantly, probably 3-4 times a week. Whereas about 5 years ago, I would train it, if I was lucky, maybe once or twice a quarter. So that's really what I've been doing for a long time. And also, my charity, about it's about well 15 years ago or so, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. And really, my story, and I'll make it quick for the viewers. It was 12 years that I battled the disease in at varying stages of success. And finally, in 2015, I was diagnosed with high grade dysplasia, which is a precursor to colon cancer. And really, the only option that I had was to have my entire large intestine removed. And right now, I live with permanent ileostomy. And because of that, it inspired me to not only have my business where I'm making money, but also try to help other people. And that's what Checkmates is all about. I've been running Checkmates since 2014, actually. And we play celebrity hockey games against NHL alumni around North America. Uh, Unfortunately, COVID has shut us down over the last 2 years, but we had games set up in Toronto and back here in the Philadelphia area. And really, what I'm trying to do with Checkmates is make this something that goes around the really all of North America. I'm not sure that'll become a global thing. I mean, that'd be great if it could, but certainly in North America, there's a humongous following for hockey here in the U.S. And especially obviously Canada. That's their national sport, really. Um, so that's really what I'm trying to do with Checkmates. And talking about the world, how small the world is. Going back to the computer training, uh, I never trained internationally until the pandemic. That's another thing that's changed over the last really 2 years now. You're in what 12 year and 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is. And now I'm training people all over the world and not flying there, which is great. I mean, being able to work in my home office and train people in all these applications. Like I said, a lot of them are the Microsoft applications, Microsoft Teams. And really, we're the show is the entrepreneur and so much more. And I want people to realize that I'm not talking about myself. I may sound conceited that, oh, he thinks he's the entrepreneur and so much more. That's really not what it's about. It's about you being the entrepreneur and so much more. What can you do to be an entrepreneur and be successful at it? And also successful in other phases of your life. And as Dr. Jacqueline knows, I'm very big into powerlifting. I'm a weightlifter. I've been doing that for a very long time, since I was 15 years old. And that's another aspect of my life. I don't see that as a separate part of the entrepreneur. So what I hope we're going to do with this show, and my goal, and what we're going to strive for, is to introduce you to people who do this, who are entrepreneurs and who take that beyond just what they do in their business. I mean, I'm a computer instructor, but I'm also a father and a husband and a weightlifter and a hockey player and a philanthropist. And I've written a book about what it was like to have my entire world changed when I lost my colon and now having permanent ileostomy. So I've become an author. There's so many things that you can be. But with that said, it takes work. I'll give you an example. I own a guitar and I own a keyboard. Now I can play around and tinker around with those things and have some fun and just kind of let off steam a little bit. But I don't call myself a musician because I'm not really a musician. I'm just having a little bit of fun with the instruments. So having a business and starting a business really only takes about 2 hours, to be honest with everybody. At least in the U.S. When I created my LLC, it took me literally about 2 hours to set it up. Now, did that equal success? Not really, not right off the bat. I mean, was I an entrepreneur? Yeah. But was I a successful entrepreneur? Well, if you're looking at the bank account, no. I was only pulling in maybe 30,000 a year when I started, uh, back in '02, and then when I incorporated in '09. So, that's what we want to talk about as well. Anybody can be an entrepreneur, but the key is wanting to be a successful entrepreneur. And I really think most people can do that. I really don't. And I say this honestly, I don't think I'm unique. I think maybe what is unique with me and other entrepreneurs that are successful is our drive might be a little bit higher than other people. Um, and that's not a knock. I mean, that's just sometimes we're able to tap into that, and other times we can't. I can't say that early on I worked as hard as I should have. I think that I should have put more time in, and I think I let the ball slip a little bit. But you grow older, and you learn more things, and I think success breeds success as well. Um, Back in '05, '04 actually, uh, I was contacted by a famous, I won't use the name, but a shopping network, and everybody knows what it is. It's on cable, and we would reach 30 million people at one time, and I was doing shows in front of 30 million people on TV. Now, I never expected in my life to be able to be a subject matter expert on anything in front of 30 million people. But here I was. I was on the air, and that made me think that other big things were possible. If I could be on the air and I could be in front of all these people as a subject matter expert on computers, I was selling for a computer company. I would demonstrate how the computers worked and why you should buy them, and we talked about all the great things that those computers did. And you know, once that happened, I started to dream a little bit bigger. Another thing that I did um, is I started at another company. So I have three companies. I have my training company, which is just for you training and consulting, and that's where I do the computer training, soft skills. I build websites for folks who have trouble with that, or who need that service. And I also started Checkmates. Again, that's the charity for Crohn's and colitis and people with an ostomy. But I also have had a love for hockey growing up. It's been a humongous part of my identity from really almost birth. I mean, I grew up in a sports family, and the Flyers were a big deal in Philadelphia, especially as I was growing up. And I just about, well, I don't want to say just 2 years ago, we started a documentary about the Philadelphia Flyers, and I had some of my childhood heroes in my house. I mean, I never thought that something like that would happen to me. And guys are so gracious. They came over, and they stayed for about 6, 7 hours, 8 hours, and we had a meal together, and we shot this documentary. And I started a production company called Full Bag Productions, and it's not uh, super successful yet. I mean, it's going to take some time to build that up. First time I'm ever doing a documentary, so it's not easy. And but again, the drive, the wanting to do that, and then to finally see the trailer that was done, it was amazing. I thought, my goodness, we really did a great job, and got a long way to go. But that's part of the entrepreneur spirit is knowing that there's a lot ahead and being willing to say, okay, I'm going to take that head on, and we'll get there. Um, I always, we're a big Hershey Park family. My family and I, we go there a lot. And if you know anything about Milton Hershey, he went bankrupt 6 times. Now, of course, at the end, the story is that he was so successful. Now, I'm not planning on going bankrupt anytime soon, and I wouldn't suggest that for any of the viewers either. But if you have times where you're not successful right away, that doesn't mean that ultimately you won't be successful. It may be a couple of times where you get knocked down and you have to get back up again. It's the old cliche, but it's true. And I'm looking forward to that with the documentary. Is once the pandemic is over and I'm able to try to find companies that would be willing to help us with sponsorship, and then we move forward with that. So there's a lot that I do. I think, and I've been on some of Dr. Jacqueline's other shows, which are amazing, and I'm so thankful for her friendship and for her willingness to let me be a part of this. But I've done shows with her before, and one of the things that I remember we talked about a lot uh, was that you really, there's a feeling I think that a lot of people have, and I really had to think this through, where if you feel like you've lost out in other aspects of your life, sometimes you want to compensate. I feel like I lost about 12 years, or at least big parts of 12 years with colitis, and then of course the surgery. And I can't let that be a tragedy in my life. I need to use that and say, you know what, that made me better at being an entrepreneur today. And that's going to make me be successful later. Because if I'm not, then I won't be able to help but look back at that time and say, gee, that was a terrible thing. And there's no positive to it. So that's really a key for me.
Justin, wow, so many incredible points that I want to sort of address one at a time. So let's talk about the colitis.
Yep.
I'm also a patient, and I totally agree. When things like this, when you have a dis-ease, you're having something that's incurable, it really makes you look at life from a different perspective. And I feel that it's driven me my whole life, even though I didn't realize it. I should say since 1991 when I was diagnosed. And we do lose out on a lot of time in life when we're sick or other things come up. Something else you shared with me, and I'm not going to just verbalize it, but you had an incredible accomplishment that happens during the pandemic. You were talking about your business. And the reason I bring it up is it is difficult to make money as an entrepreneur. And sometimes people get to a point where they just can't take it anymore because the bills are piling up, people are calling, and the money's not coming in. So I also want to address on this show, what does somebody do? How do you know when you say, you know what, this must be a hobby and I better just go get a job? I've got to get 2 or 3 part-time jobs in order to sustain what I'm doing. Or you just say to yourself, you know what, I'm not going to let those distractions about money or bill collectors or anything else bring me down. I'm going to stay the path and continue on.
I think that's something that everybody has to decide at some point. I don't think there is a cookbook answer to say this is when you make the decision either to stop being an entrepreneur or you just stay the course. If you're single and you have some money saved up, then yeah, I mean, you might stay a little longer. You might say, you know what, I haven't been successful yet, but I don't have a lot of money problems right now. I'm going to give it more of a try. In my case, I have a wife and 2 kids. If I was pulling in $30,000 still today, then there's no way I would be able to continue it. I would have to say maybe this is a side gig. Maybe I could do this on weekends and train people and help them. But you're right. I would have to go out and get a job. So it's not an easy answer. It's not, everybody should always follow this path. Um, I saw a lot of upside potential in computers because obviously we're all dependent on computers today. And that's a big thing. And the other thing that my wife and I are trying to do right now is start a curriculum for kids because in the schools, at least in America, they're not using the Microsoft products, and that's all that's used across the world is Microsoft products. So you got to look for things that are possible niches. They're not all going to come true. They're not all going to work out. Uh, an example would be Dr. Jacqueline. If you talk about if I wanted to be a movie producer right now, would I drop everything right now? And because I have this documentary started, would I do this as my career? Well, no, I'm not going to make enough money to do that. It's a money drain at this point. So it's a hobby, as you said. You use it as something that you try to do later on. That's all.
But I think it's really important, Justin, that you realize that
Yep.
because I'm a big fan of Shark Tank. And I quote Mr. Wonderful many times, but he's actually called people out on the carpet, literally saying, what you have is a glorified hobby. It's not a business. And we have to be able to look at it and say, okay, how can I make it an effective business? Where are the revenue streams? Who am I partnered with? Who's my audience? How am
Right.
I presenting myself? What is my branding? One thing that I learned, and I'd love to have you weigh in on this, as an entrepreneur, obviously much more recent than you. I retired in 20, now I guess it's 2020. It goes by so fast.
It
But
is quick.
who's your audience and how are you communicating to them? When I first started, everything I was writing and putting out there was about me, was about what I was doing. It's like, oh, you should be excited because I'm doing this. Who cares? No one cares what I'm doing. What does it mean to them? So how do you take that messaging and make it about the customer? And I see this now that I interview people all the time, and I look at their marketing. I'm like, oh no, you're doing what I did there, friend. What are your
I'm
thoughts about it?
it's brilliant. I mean, that's really what it's all about. People don't want to hear a commercial about me as an individual, all of my accomplishments or things that I've done. I try to target my customers by telling them, look, I can make your career better. I mean, you can make more money. You could have the position you want if you have these skills, and they're skills that you can quantify. You can go back. If I teach you how to create a pivot table, you could go back to your desk and actually create a pivot table and see if what you learned actually transfers. And these things transfer because that's what we're using all over the world, the Microsoft products, Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you're a project manager and I train you how to use Microsoft Project, again, you can quantify that. Can I take that back to my desk? Can I sit down? Can I put in the information and see this project come to life? And the answer is yes. So I always tell people, it's not what I know. Take what I know and make it what you know, because that's what's going to make you more marketable in the long run. What and you know what? I think people look at entrepreneur um, and put it on a pedestal, which is fine. But not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay too. There are people who are not entrepreneurs that I know. I have friends who are, or they work for a company. They're not business people as far as creating their own business, but they're making six figures plus, and they're doing really, really well. So I really hope that part of this show talks about, and I think we will, Dr. Jacqueline, you and I, and our guests that'll be coming in the months to follow, that it's okay if you're not an entrepreneur. Maybe you're support for an entrepreneur, and that's important too.
Brilliant, because we don't want to isolate anyone or
Yeah.
exclude anyone. I think it's about the entrepreneurial spirit as well, that many places where you work, you might be empowered to do something, and that can be your entrepreneurial spirit that you take and parlay into whatever it is you're doing. And Justin, something else I know we're going to be discussing on this show is, what does success look like? You talked about the paycheck and you were very honest about that. It was 30,000 for many years, right?
Yep.
Now, if your situation were different and you weren't a father and husband, like you said, you could have taken that 30. That could have been, you could have changed the way you were living. I don't know how you were living, but I'm saying you could have made it on 30 and been happy for that autonomy and the freedom to make your own decisions and call your own shots. But at some point, you have to actually look at the budget, what's coming in and what's going out, and make some decisions about that. So, one thing that I like so much as an entrepreneur is that I'm doing this. I'm actually doing it. This is what I do behind this green screen. I am here when I'm not on the show. I'm producing. I'm interacting with the team. We've got 23 team members now. It's so exciting, and I'm just so happy. Now, I gave up the
Yeah.
six figures. I don't have the six figures now, but I'm happier than I've ever been, and the six figures are going to come because this is what I do, and I'm putting it out there. It's coming.
And the skills that you have before you became an entrepreneur are what is making you a great entrepreneur at this point. So it's
Thank you.
not, you're welcome. It's not just you work somewhere, you made six figures, you learned a lot of things and you learned how to become a six-figure employee. And that can translate into being a good entrepreneur.
Yeah, it was quite a journey. 28 years, I think. I'm giving away my age now, but who cares? So, Justin, I want to go back to something you said in the very beginning. And
Sure.
I'm glad that you clarified about in the United States, because obviously in other countries, we don't know what that process is like to start a business. Let's just talk from very basics, the two of us, what somebody has to do legally. And obviously, it might vary state by state. But for the two of us, you and I were both in New Jersey. I'm not there now, but starting businesses in New Jersey. I'm not sure, is that where you started yours when you did
I
it
did.
23? Yeah. Okay. So what are some of the steps that people have to take to start the business and become an entrepreneur?
Well, all I had to do really was go onto the website, the state website, and file to become an LLC. And you have to put in the information about what you're going to start with, how much money, your name. You got to apply for an EIN number and get that. But it really only took about 2 or 3 hours to do that. Now, again, here's another thing, and it ties in. Um, if I asked a lawyer to do that, and luckily for me, my father is a retired lawyer, so he was able to kind of guide me through this process. But I know that other entrepreneurs, friends of mine, wanted to do this process, and a lawyer was going to charge them about $2,000 or $3,000 to do it. Now, I did it in 2 or 3 hours on my own with my father's help. So one thing I have done for people since is help them through this process, so they don't have to spend the $2,000 or $3,000 to get done. But you can do it on your own. You actually, if you follow the steps and you read everything, got to file for that EIN number, and then just go through the process of putting in the name of the company, doing business as. Obviously, you have to set up a bank account so that checks will go to the company. You definitely want an LLC, because if you get sued, you don't want them coming after your personal assets. That's really an important thing. In my personal business, that's less likely than if you're a plumber or if you're an electrician, because in those jobs, if you do make a mistake, they can cause injuries and potential deaths even. So you definitely want to be LLC'd. You're walking a tightrope if you're not, but it's really not a very difficult process to do.
Now, Justin, I think it's so interesting because I have a lawyer who helped me when I have 3 LLCs. Now, I had 5 at one point, but I never did anything with 2 of them. And I went through an online company and they did the filing for me, and it cost $2,000 plus.
Right.
And
Right.
I had to wait. I think I did the gold rush package, and I think I had to wait about 20 days. So I just learned something from you. That's very interesting that you can go and do it yourself.
Yeah, yeah, you can. And in fact, I did it with the full bag productions. For what my father helped me with the first time, I remembered a lot of it. I was able to put that together in literally 2 hours. If you have $350 in New Jersey, you can start a company. And that, I know, it's crazy, right? I mean,
Shocking. Oh my goodness. We do have a comment from one of our team members, Mr.
sure.
Hyatt Ives. Thank you, Justin, for both the technical and the inspirational sides of making it happen.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And thank you for the comment. I appreciate you with the kind words. I appreciate that very much.
Thanks,
I
Hyatt.
really
Thanks for
do.
watching.
We really appreciate that.
So you file the paperwork, right?
Yep.
Now, what
Hmm.
about the registered agent? What's this all about? Is this something that everybody has to have?
Um,
Registered agent. So, for example, it's a company that acts as your agent if any documents from the state are filed, then you have to have a registered agent or somebody has to handle it. So in other words, let's say your address changes or
right,
yeah,
right. I handle all that on my own.
I
I
knew you were
do
going to
because
say that. I
yeah,
knew it.
yeah, yeah, I do because again, it's going to cost me thousands of dollars to not to hand that over to somebody else. And if it's going to cost me 3 or 4 hours, it's like I'm making $1,000 an hour, right?
Exactly.
I
Well,
mean,
you're looking
so
at somebody who has 3 registered agents. So there we go.
I
Okay.
mean, mhm.
Okay, so let's talk about the next thing. What about business insurance? When should somebody consider getting business insurance? And again, you talk to an attorney or an accountant or whomever.
I do have it through one of the companies that I subcontract with. Um, I didn't buy it myself. I didn't see the need for it. I didn't think I needed insurance for my company because again, it's I'm doing most of this stuff away from people. I'm on a computer screen. I'm not working in their homes. I'm not working on their cars. So there's really not a whole lot. But if you're in a business where if your work could cause damage, if there's a mistake that's made, that's when you really need the insurance.
Yes, good point. Okay, so we get the technicalities out of the way. We get the business up and running. We've got this fabulous name, right? Whatever it is.
Yes. Yep.
And now we need a website, or do we?
We do need a website. Absolutely.
Okay,
If
tell us
you don't
about
have
that.
Yeah, if you don't have web presence, you're really not going to be able to at least look like a major company. I mean, if you looked at my website right now, you would have no idea that I really am the only person running the company, and I am.
It's
It's a one man band. But
it
if you
looks
look,
great, by the way. Let's put it back up so people can go over and check it out.
sure, I appreciate
Just
that.
for you, tc.com. Folks, go ahead over there and check it out while we're on the show so you can get an idea. It's a great looking website. So good. So you're the only person there, but it looks much more impressive.
Yeah, it does, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think people might say, well, that's you're lying, or you're making yourself look like more than you are. You're not. You If you can follow through on everything that you promise on that website, then you're really not embellishing. It is what it is, you know. Um, Now that website, in full transparency, was partially done by me. Now most of it was done by a friend of mine because I didn't know at that point how to build a website yet. And he is a good friend from grade school and was willing to do it for a really good price. Now, when I started the charity and needed a website for the charity, he was unable to do it. So I priced it out. 3,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000. I was getting all these numbers and I'm thinking, I don't have it, to spend on the charity. So I asked myself, what skills do you have? And I'm a computer person. So I said, can I build a Wix website? Can I teach myself how to do that? And I did do that. And I went out and I built the website. And the website that I built is just as professional as the one that I had gotten done. So,
I love that. I love that. I want
but
to
it's
share a little bit of
necessity.
it's so anybody who's watching on the live or the replay, you can build your own website. I built
Sure.
drjacqueline.com, the version that's been out there up until this weekend. I built it myself, and people would say, "Oh, it's loud, it's not easy to navigate, there's too much stuff on there." And I just thought, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the colors. I love this. I love that, because it was all about me, because I created it. But yet my audience, my potential clients were saying, it's not that great, by the way. It's too cumbersome and big. And so I looked at hiring somebody from an online platform and gave the money, released the money in advance because the person was at the final stages. It was in the sandbox, it was being developed. And the person could not do what it was that I needed them to do. They just, because they're 22 hours ahead, and there was a
Mm,
communication issue, but they could not deliver on what it was. So that was money that was just goodbye, see you later money. And that's happened in
yes.
other aspects of being an entrepreneur. So I stuck with the website that I have, and now I have an official agency that has taken it over and so relaunched it. But the point is that I have found, not knowing what I didn't know, that I trusted people that I shouldn't have trusted, and that it cost me money.
Sure. And that's that. But you live and learn.
Yeah.
You try to avoid those things, obviously, but every entrepreneur is going to get their toes stubbed on something like that. And it's just inevitable. But you have to brush it off. And, I beat myself up a lot of times when those things happen. I get so frustrated. You should know better than this. You've been doing this. But everybody makes mistakes. Just
Yeah.
part of the game. Just part of the game.
It's true. And I don't beat myself up over it anymore because I've learned things. This is really kind of cool, and I'd love to have your input on it. I was taking a course to become certified in meditation, which I now am. And the organization that does this training, the woman who runs it, she's very well connected because she was on Wall Street for years. And she puts together a business course. In this business course, you have leading experts who are going to come and spend an hour and give you a download of some information. So this one person was speaking, and I went over to her website, and she charges $6,500 an hour. And I was like, what? And I thought, you know what, I want to know what could she possibly know? For like, is there a 20-minute free consultation? So there wasn't. But the next week there was another guy who was presenting, and he was $3,000, something like, for two consultations for an hour each. So anyway, I said to him that if he would speak to me for 15 minutes, that I would consider hiring him. So he spoke to me for 15 minutes, and he looked at my website, and he looked at what I was doing, and he asked me this question that I had never really thought of. As ridiculous as it sounds, already out there as an entrepreneur, who is your target market and what is it that you offer in terms of value? And I said, wow, that's a great question. No one's asked me that before. So I told him, and he said, your website and your marketing does not reflect any of that.
Wow.
I didn't hire him, by the way, but I did take that information and I did
Good.
use it.
That's fair. You told them up front.
Yeah, I told him up front. But see the point of what I'm trying to make, that as somebody who worked in corporate who didn't do any of these things, that I was missing the mark. The mark was, who's your audience and what's your value? And for everybody out there, that's key.
It is. It really is. And it's, you know, I think you have to decide what is worth learning and being able to do and what is just beyond your scope. So I built the website using Wix, which is point and click, and there's some more technical things in there that I was able to figure out. But I thought to myself, gee, if I learn HTML and I learn how to code, I could do all these crazy great things. And I had to ask myself, how much of that would, where's the return on investment with that? If I study like crazy and learn how to code, am I going to make more money or a lot more money because I know that? And the answer is no, I'm not. So you know what? I'm not buying HTML books and I'm not going to sit down and study HTML.
That was a great decision because you looked at the time value of money.
Right.
So here's a question I have for you. I've had this debate with people since the beginning of time doing what I'm doing, not so much anymore, but how important is the logo? People get very wrapped up in the logo. Is somebody going to buy from you because of your logo? Are they going to buy from you because of your business card? Do we even use business cards? What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, I'm part of a company where we sell business cards that are actually digital business cards.
Hmm.
These things are amazing. They're like really virtual websites where people could download information right to the phone. The picture comes up. My business card has video behind it. It really grabs attention. I do think that's a key. I really do. I think that that's a big deal. I don't use paper business cards anymore. Now, on my website, the first website where my buddy helped build it, uh, he's big into subliminal messaging, and part of the subliminal messaging was I have a logo where it looks almost like a graduation cap at the top of my logo, so it connotes uh, study and academia and learning, and that's really what he was thinking about when he made the logo. And I really didn't think of that before, and now when I build websites for people, I think about that. And if I build the logo, I think what subliminally, what do I want to say with this? Did you know that Amazon, it's a smile? I mean, that those things, it's a smile in there, and it's a subliminal. It grabs attention. It makes people want to look and learn more about it. So I think that's a big deal.
I think you're right. It is a big deal. I've always been on the side that it's a big deal, and other people are no, it's not a big deal. I think the website's a big deal because
Yeah.
it's your online presence of who you are.
Yeah, and I had an accountant one time tell me, don't even, this is a long time ago, don't even LLC, just be yourself. And I said, people want to know that they're going to a company. They don't want to go to Justin Merigliani. They want to go to Just For You training and consulting. There's a huge difference between the two. And it just looks more professional. It gives people more confidence that you know what you're doing, that you're a business, you know how to get it done.
Absolutely. That's another great tip for our audience. And I'm so excited for all the future guests that are going to come on. But we could just do the show ourselves. We know that, but it's fun to bring other people on and hear where they are in their journey, whether they're just starting off or whether they've been around for a long time, and how has the pandemic impacted their business? How has technology impacted their business? How has globalization impacted their business?
Yeah, and some of the people that I'm looking forward to having on the show are just amazing people. They really have done well, and they're successful because they're successful at other things too. They're not just successful in business; they're successful in their lives, and that really matters. It makes a difference. I you know, I remember, and this is something from back years ago. I had a cousin who was in an industry, was in technically pornography. That was what he did for a living. He worked in that industry, and there's money that can be made there, and he did make money. And I remember thinking to myself, there's probably so many ideas that are in that industry. But at the end of the day, if I was a millionaire and I was an entrepreneur who started this business in the pornography field, would I be able to look my kids in the face and say, Daddy does this for a living? I couldn't do that. I just couldn't do that. It wouldn't. The money's not worth it to me. So to me, to be a successful entrepreneur, I got to be able to be happy about what I do too. It can't be, what would be dirty money or money that was done in a way that wasn't right. And to me, you can be a billionaire, and if you can't look in your kids and say, "This is what I do for a living," are you successful? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't think so. I don't think so. At least for me. At least for me.
Yeah, I think and we started off with that. What does success look like for each of us? To me, it's not the money either. And all the money that I made all those years, I'm so much happier. I'm very grateful that I had those experiences because it led me to where I am today. But I have this ability to create and produce and learn. I learned how to broadcast. I have all these devices here. I didn't know anything about any of them.
And you wrote a
And
book about it afterwards too,
yeah,
which
and
is
I
great.
wrote a book about. I mean, yes, exactly. It's just it's an incredible journey. So I hope that while the great resignation is taking place, that people are really seriously looking at what is it that drives them. What do they feel passionate about? You're very passionate about what you do. I'm passionate about what I do. And I'm so glad that you brought up the other parts of your life as well. I love that with the weightlifting. I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that, because you're not just lifting weights. Okay. You're going for breaking record after record. And let's talk a little bit more about that. So what is it that gave you this passion for weightlifting, and where is it you're trying to go with it?
Yeah, I really, growing up, I grew up in South Philadelphia. It's a tough town, and people are, manhood is a big deal there. And part of that was being big and strong. And I always got into that. And by 15, I started lifting weights pretty seriously. And when I was told that I was going to lose my colon, I was devastated. I thought, I can't lift weights anymore with an ileostomy. And every doctor I talked to, every nurse that I talked to, they said the same thing. They said it's really not a great idea to power lift. And I couldn't handle that. I couldn't handle that something that was such a big part of my life is going to go away forever and gone. So I just said, I'm going to do it anyway. And I do lift heavy. I'm trying to become the first person with ileostomy that I know of to bench press 400 pounds. And it's funny. It's every time I get close, I got up to 385 pounds on the bench press, and then shoulder injury, and then you go back down a little bit. You got to lift back up again, and it's a tough thing to get to, especially naturally. I obviously don't do steroids or any kind of performance enhancing drugs, but yeah, I mean, it's a goal, and I want to be able to say that I was, despite being told that you're not going to do this anymore, I was be able to get to that level. And I hope that would be an inspiration to other people with an ostomy, because when I was told that I was going to lose my colon, I I was really searching for any kind of hope that I would still be an athlete or be able to do anything like that and be strong and still be a man. Um, and I'll tell you, my surgeon introduced me. Not He didn't introduce us personally, but he told me about Rolf Benershka, who's now become a really dear friend of mine, and he kicked in the NFL for the San Diego Chargers for 7 years with an ostomy. And I told Rolf this. That was the minute that I knew that weightlifting wasn't over. And unbelievably, the night of surgery, I said to my parents, I said, one day I'm going to be working with Rolf and we're going to do things together. And 2 years ago, we got together, and he's working on an amazing app. I'm going to have him as one of the guests, hopefully. And the inspiration that he gave me was amazing. And that's part of the reason why I'm going to get to the 400 pounds. And I know I'm going to do it. It's just going to take some time. That's all.
You can already see yourself doing it. I can see you
I
doing
can.
it. Yeah. Now, I have a question for you. For this
Sure.
momentous occasion, is your wife or your children, are they there each time with the camera ready to film if this is the moment?
I believe it or not, this is going to sound crazy to everybody. My wife and kids spot me, actually. So
It takes a village, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I had my wife spotting me for 380 one time, and luckily I got it up and I didn't need help, but she was there just in case.
Now, does she lift weights also?
She does not. She does not, but she exercises. She's in good shape.
But to be a spotter, you don't have to.
No, I mean, usually it's just a couple of fingers on the bar to help guide it up a little bit.
Yeah.
It's usually just relieving about 20 pounds of weight. Yeah.
But somebody's got the camera.
Yes. My
Yeah.
daughters usually have the camera.
I can't wait. I know very soon you're going to be sharing that photograph with us on the show.
I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely.
So, Justin, for people who are just joining and they're thinking, wow, this is a cool show. How do I get to be on the show? Is it by invitation only, Justin, or is it going to be people just that you're inviting, or are you open to having somebody from the public join?
Oh, I'm open to having somebody join from the public. If they want to contact us, that'd be great. You know, if they have a story to tell, if they're an entrepreneur or have been an entrepreneur, we'd love to hear stories from people. I think inspiration's key.
Definitely. So you see Justin's email is there, Justin, Justin, at just for the word FORUYOUTC.com. Well, it's been a fabulous show. The time flew by, of
It
course.
did.
And Justin, just let our audience know, when can they find the show? We're going to be doing it.
We're going to be doing it monthly. Right now, we're going to, with the eye to go to twice a month, but right now it's going to be monthly on Mondays at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So please join us. And if anybody wants to be a part of it, as Dr. Jacqueline said, we'd love to have you. So
Fantastic. Thank you.
entrepreneurs out there, come on in.
Yay! So all you have to do, folks, I'll put it in the comments. You can just go over to USA Global TV. That's everything, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. You'll find the show, Entrepreneur and So Much More. And then you can book the session. You can email Justin if you want to speak to him. You can email me. We're here. We're happy to help you. And to watch the show after the fact, because there's so many gems here that you're going to want to revisit it and share with your friends, go over to our YouTube channel, which is USA Global TV, and just click subscribe, and you'll see playlists, Entrepreneur and So Much More. The show will be there shortly after we close out. So, Justin, I'm going to spotlight you again. Tell people how they can reach you and who should reach out to you in terms of business.
Yeah, anybody who's in a business where you need computer training, you want to get your staff up to speed on all the latest and greatest technology. If you're looking for a job, I know a lot of people are really hurting right now and need a job and needs the skills. You can come to justforutc.com. My email is justin@justforutc.com. And if you're interested in getting involved with helping those with Crohn's and colitis, we're Checkmates Charitable Association, www.checkmatescharity.com.
Thank you so much. And Justin, I want our audience to know that we were actually connected because of the Crohn's Colitis Foundation. That's one of the employees there, Dawn, thought there'd be some nice synergy between us. And I remember the very first conversation I had with you, I think it had just been snowing and the sun had come out, and I was sitting in my car excited to get out of the apartment and spoke to you on the phone, and here we are. So you just never know where a connection is going to take you. So I would also suggest for everybody, just my experience, have an open heart, help other people, and put yourself out there, and it will come back to you tenfold, I promise.
It's the truth. It really is the truth.
It is. And I just want to share the website so you can see it visually, usaglobaltv.com. Book your session. All right, Justin, that's a wrap for us today for Entrepreneur and So Much More. We look forward to seeing you next month, the first Monday of the month at 5 p.m.
Sounds good. See you then, everybody.
Bye, everybody.